I'm not progressing.
Six years ago, 8 years ago, whatever it was. Oh, that's it. I was thinking on which is still St. John's County, but it is.
Hello, everybody. My name is Larry Garnell. I'm the Investor Success Manager for DLP Capital Advisors. I'm very happy to have you all here tonight. Just letting you know that we will begin the presentation with our CEO, Wenner, very shortly. The food will be buffet style, and we'll start calling you up in about 5 or so minutes. We will get you started, and then Don will start presenting, and then we'll have a great evening. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand in the meantime. Otherwise, we'll be started in just a few minutes. Thank you. Thank you.
Good. Well, thank you so much. I'm so happy that
Yeah, way over there. Yeah. Oh, right there. You think a pretty drive. So export
Only brave people come up front.
Yeah.
You're a school teacher? And you know, yeah. Especially the small screen, right? You want to come up front. My wife's a school teacher, and she always looks at the front, like everybody out there. She usually wins. Yeah. And you're always happy to do that because you see better, hear better.
I'm a little nearsighted, so.
Okay. Is your work dinner with us?
Yeah. I didn't understand it.
Oh, okay. All right, excellent. Well, hopefully it'll make it simple, and it'll make sense. So it can seem like we do a lot of things when you start to do it, so hopefully we'll get some clarity here. Well, enjoy.
I'm glad that you're that's always nice.
Good evening, everybody. So my name is Wenner. I'm the CEO of DLP Capital Advisors. Please continue to eat. We're going to get started and present over dinner and desserts. Before I get started here, can all of our existing investors do me a favor, either stand up or put your hand up real quick? All right, awesome. So if you're here for the first time, you're a prospective investor, make sure to at least chat with one or two of our existing investors, hear their experience, and hear directly from them. They're our best resources here. I'm going to try to do a great job presenting, but talking to them I think is even more valuable than hearing from me. So I'm going to try to simplify all the different things we do. If you start trying to skim through those brochures in front of you, it can look like a lot of moving pieces, a lot of things that we're doing. I'm going to try to simplify it a little bit here in this presentation, give you a little color to who we are, where we came from, where we're going, and how you can invest with us. So I'm going to break the presentation into two main parts. Number one is I'm going to talk about us, DLP, the manager, and our ability to execute. And then second, I'm going to talk about strategy and what the investment vehicles are that we invest in. So this is the family of DLP companies. It looks like a lot of companies, and it is. And I'm going to talk a little bit though about the main ones here that affect our investments, affect each of you if you choose to invest with us. DLP Capital Advisors is the investment arm of our company. That's who's hosting this dinner here tonight. That we manage 5 discretionary funds that you're going to hear more about. Direct Lending Partners is our private lending company. DLP Acquisitions is the company that goes out and acquires real estate. DLP Builders is our construction company. DLP Property Management manages all of our properties, and then DLP Realty is our real estate brokerage. And this will all make a little better sense as we move forward. We're managed and run by 4 executives: myself, my CFO Bob Peterson, Jason, who runs property management, Larry, who runs construction, and really oversee our assets. A little bit about myself. So I've been in real estate now for 11 years. I've completed over 6,000 real estate transactions, over $800 million, including over 1,000 transactions where I was the investor. I was the purchaser of the property. So over 1,000 transactions as the principal in the investment. More importantly than all that, I'm the father of 2 little boys who are 4 and 5 years old, who both just started school here in Valencia this past, about 2 weeks ago now. Donnie and Alex. Alex on the left, Donnie's on the right. And my wonderful wife, Carla. We actually live directly behind us right now on that street, right behind us. We live right here in the community and actually have 2 offices here in the neighborhood as well. Right now, we own over 400 properties, single-family homes, apartment communities, and a few other things as well. So, snapshot of us in a sort of one-screen format. We manage $250 million worth of assets. We have over 2,000 apartments we own and houses, over 200 loans. That's across 5 investment funds. We have over 300 investors now. It's the first time we've ever been able to say that. At our last dinner, we had 275. So now have over 300 investors. We have 0 principal losses to any investors. And we have 0 months where we've ever missed our targeted return in any of our funds. So those are the stats that we believe to be most important above everything else we're going to talk to you here about tonight. We have 190 employees, and those employees drive over $100 million in annual revenues. So I'm going to take you back. That's where we are today. Now I'm going to take you back to where it all started. So 1998, I was in 8th grade. That's a picture my mom sent to me yesterday in 8th grade. That's the house I grew up in, Nazareth, Pennsylvania. Why this is an important moment is, and some of you might remember back in middle school, they did these things called career day. Did you ever have a career day, right? So I was in a career day, and here I am in 8th grade, and I don't think I knew at this time what a financial advisor was. Might not have ever even heard of one before. But on career day, a financial advisor came in. He was one of the people who came in to tell us about his career and what life is like as a financial advisor. And he talked about how he managed investments for people, that is finance and math were really important in that career, and also your ability to talk to people, build relationships, and he really focused on helping people protect their money and support their lifestyle. And that really hit me. It really struck me. I said, well, I'm really good at math. I think that I could be really good at this. And I was pretty interested. Then I got even more interested when he handed out a little chart, kind of looked like this. And on this chart, it was about 10 different professions, lawyers and doctors and accountants and nurses and teachers and so forth. And according to his chart, financial advisors made more money than every other profession. They made about $120,000 a year according to his little chart. And that was the day I said, I'm going to be a financial advisor. So here we are 11 years later, and we are not financial advisors, but here we are now managing capital for investors, very similar to that, of course, at least from an 8th grade level of a financial advisor. Our path to get here has been a little bit different than that of a financial advisor path, per se, that most people get to managing capital, as I took a detour through real estate to get to capital management, as you'll hear more about today. So one of the things I learned early on is that great companies solve problems. Pretty simple concept when you think about it. That's something great companies do. They solve people's problems. Our slogan at DLP is solutions for and from real estate. And really early in our days, everything we did, every one of those companies I showed a minute ago, all started to solve a problem. We didn't set out to be a property manager. We didn't set out to be a home builder. We didn't set out to do a lot of things we've done. We did these things to solve people's problems. So a little joke on solving problems. So from now on, red ink means profit and black ink means losses. Problem solved. So in Realty, we focused on solving problems. It started in 2006. How I got into real estate and got to where we are today is I started as a real estate agent in 2006. And although we all hear about the Great Recession of 2008, 2009, real estate market actually started going down in 2006. Middle of 2006 was the peak of the real estate market. So here I am getting started in late 2006, and the real estate market started shifting. And all of a sudden, I started studying the stats and realizing, wait a second, homes aren't selling as fast as they did last month. They're not selling as fast as they did 6 months ago. Everything's not flying off the market with 10 offers like it's been in 2003, 4, 5. And I said, well, how do I solve this problem? More and more people started being concerned if they could sell their home. So from the very first year I've been in real estate, we started your home sold in 68 days, guaranteed, or we'll buy it. And that was the solution we had. Well, people are worried about selling their homes. We'll guarantee to sell their homes. And that's been really powerful for us. We've actually never changed that marketing message. For 11 years, it's been 68 days that we've guaranteed to sell a home. And this program has helped us sell thousands of homes. So in that first year of selling real estate, a lot of my clients were real estate investors. I was helping real estate investors buy rental properties, flip houses, and this is how we started investing in real estate. So in 2007, I was sitting at a closing table. Have you ever been at a closing table on a real estate transaction? Right? Sitting around a conference room table, and I'm representing the buyer of this house that you see right there. So I'm helping an investor buy this house. It's in a little town called Catasauqua, Pennsylvania. And I'm sitting across from a 76 or 77-year-old woman named Teresa. And I'm having some chit-chat with her, waiting for my client to get there. And he calls me up and says, Don, I'm not coming. I'm not buying the house. I can't get the money. I'm sorry. Tell the lady I'm not buying the house. So I had to, nice job at 21 years old, to tell this 77-year-old lady that my client wasn't going to buy her home after she just got done telling me she needed this money or they were going to throw her out of the assisted living facility she was living in. Breaks into tears, very upset, and I said, hold on a second. So I literally drove out of the conference room, went down to the bank, and I took out $71,000 out of my bank account, and I bought this home from her for $71,000 that day. Didn't set out to flip this house, but I realized I had to solve this lady's solution. Felt so bad for her. So we bought this home, we put about $20,000 into it, and we sold it for $119,000, made $20-some thousand profit, and we were a home flipper. So that year we flipped 5 or 6 houses. The next year we flipped 20, 30, 40 houses. The next year 50, 60, 70, 80 houses. So again, on this message of creating solutions for and from real estate, that set off another light bulb to me that there's got to be a lot of people in these assisted living facilities in these types of situations. So I started working with many assisted living facilities where I would explain to the facilities that we could provide people with cash offers on their homes, provide them with the money the facilities need to keep them in the homes, and many assisted living facilities started referring us to people to buy their homes. And we've bought dozens and dozens of houses from people moving into senior housing. We also started realizing another problem. So somebody would come into a assisted living facility with $400,000, $500,000, $800,000, whatever the number was. And that money disappears really quickly at $4,000, $6,000, $8,000 a month, right? And most of these people, of course, they're in their 70s, 80s. They don't want to take risks, right, in their investments. So what are they doing? Remember, this is 2008. The crash, the real estate crash. So they have their money sitting in bank accounts earning nothing, right? Which has been still the same for the last 7, 8, 9 years sitting in a bank account. So we started having many of our clients, our friends, our investors start referring us to their parents and grandparents, where they would invest their money with us, their $300,000, their $500,000, and we would pay them a fixed return, 7, 8, 9, 10% fixed return. And all of a sudden that $500,000, that interest they would earn would cover their assisted living bills. And they wouldn't be eating away their principal anymore. They were able to cover it with the fixed interest they were earning from us. And this is where a lot of our first investors came from, and also how we started our investment career as well. So then here we are now, another year later, 2009, and we're starting to deal with a lot of people who now owe more than their home is worth. Property values are going down. Anybody here in Florida, that isn't a surprise, right? Property values are going down. People owe more than the home is worth. What do? Well, if they have to move, let's say you're getting relocated for work, or you lose your job, whatever the case is, and you can't stay in that home. What do? If you can't sell and you're upside down, one option was a short sale, and we actually launched a short sale negotiation company. We've done thousands of short sales, but many also decided to rent their homes. And this started DLP Property Management. There were no good property managers in the town that we felt comfortable referring our clients to, so we said, all right, we'll rent your house out and we'll manage it for you. And we even came out with a guaranteed rent program. We guaranteed the rent from their tenants to come in, even if the tenant moved out. It says, I see you have one of those upside down mortgages. Bummer, right? A lot of people were in this situation in 2009, 10, 11, 12, even today. So in 2011, 2012, we flipped hundreds of houses. Market finally then hit its bottom in Pennsylvania, where we were focused on. Market hit its bottom somewhere around 2011, 2012, meaning property values stopped going down. And we realized this is the time to start buying and building a rental portfolio. Anytime you can be pretty darn confident you're buying at the very bottom, it's a good time to buy, right? A lot of our investors who we had been paying 7, 8, 9, 10% fixed return on their money were really happy. But the one thing they didn't like was they had to give Uncle Sam some of that money, right? Some of that interest income they would get taxed on. More of our investors are saying, well, how can we invest and not have to be taxed on all of our income? This is when we launched our first equity fund, where investors could invest passively in real estate, have the tax deferral benefit of depreciation, and capitalize on buying at the bottom of the market. So we set out our first fund, focused on generating 20+% annual net return to investors with tax benefits. And that fund here is now in its 6th year, and it actually now starting to wind down, and investors have done very, very well. It says, don't panic, folks. We've just about bottomed out. So this is where we're finally in 2011, we finally hit the bottom. Things are starting to go up slowly, but they're going up. And we also started realizing at this point, we started all of a sudden quickly having a couple hundred houses that we own. And we started realizing, well, managing single family homes all over the place is a lot of work. And more investors starting to want to invest money with us, we said, well, how do we get bigger here? How do we keep growing? We started to have, at one point here in 2012, 2013, we would have 40 to 50 houses being renovated, full renovations at all times. I had 100 full-time employees in my construction company and about 150 subcontractors on my properties every day. So I had 250 people every day scattered across 40 to 50 properties. And I realized I can't get 5 times bigger than this, 10 times bigger than this. I lose scale, I lose profitability. How do we scale it? How do we leverage all these resources and knowledge? That's when we started realizing, well, if we bought a 100-unit property, you get a lot more scale than buying a single home. So we started buying larger apartment communities. That's what we've been focused on for the past 4 or 5 years. So from 2014 to 2016, we grew our property management by over 1,000%. Our investment holdings by over 1,000%. We're building multiple subdivisions. We've grown our real estate team to be the #8 real estate team in America, as ranked by the Wall Street Journal. We've been one of the top 15 real estate teams in America for 3 straight years. We grew to over 150 employees, now today over 190 employees. And we also grew Direct Lending Partner, our lending company, one of the largest private lenders in Florida, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. So it says, wow, that's some growth spurt, right? So pretty big growth, which we'll talk more about in a second. We've been driven by the purpose of living our dream to create prosperity through innovative real estate solutions. Dream, live, prosper is what DLP stands for, and that's embodied in our purpose. We're driven by 8 core values, one of which is called the 20-mile march. By chance, has anybody in this room ever read a book called Great by Choice by Jim Collins? Larry, you don't count. So of course Larry has, but so 20-mile march is an amazing story. I won't give the whole long story right now, but what 20-mile march means is the discipline and consistently hitting targets day after day, year after year, regardless of prevailing conditions. That means growing your company or your business or individually in down markets and in good markets, and restricting the growth in really good markets and forcing growth even in down markets. Steady, consistent effort. So even with all the growth I just showed you that we've had, what's really important to us is we've been on the Inc. 5000 list 5 straight years. We've been one of the 5,000 fastest growing companies in America. Less than 100 companies have ever done that. Been on the list for 5 straight years. We're the 10th fastest growing company in America who's been on the list 5 years in a row. So we've maintained steady growth. We'll never be probably one of the fastest 100 or 500 companies in the country. We were 785 this past year, which was the fastest we've ever had. But the key is that consistent growth year over year over year. Keep doing the things that work and steadily add to them. So again, a reminder to the snapshot, 0 principal losses. We manage 5 investment funds, over $250 million in assets, $100 million in revenue. We own properties throughout Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. So that's where we are today. It says you're going to get bigger. So by 2025, why you guys are all here tonight is we're still growing. We expect to go from $250 million in assets to $2 billion in assets by 2025. To give you perspective, that'll be 15,000 apartments, that'll be over 1,000 loans, and that'll be going from 300 to over 1,000 investors. And most importantly, still maintaining 0 principal losses and 0 months of missing our preferred return targets. And we'll grow to over $250 million in annual revenue. When we look at 2035, we don't have specific numbers we expect to get to. What we expect is that by then we're going to have investors who've now been with us for 10, 15, 20, 25 years, decades. That's really the big focus of what we do is long-term relationships. We expect to have relationships by then with your children and be managing your children's investments. And we'll grow to over $5 billion overall in assets is where we'll be by 2035. So with all that said, a little bit of insight on DLP Capital, and then I'm going to dive into these strategies. So I have 2 partners in DLP Capital Advisors. I'm the founder and CEO, but I have 2 partners, my CFO and my general counsel. They're both owners here at DLP Capital Advisors, phenomenal individuals. You can read their full bios in those handouts, but they're incredible, incredible individuals. This is our overall leadership team. You'll see some of those people behind you, Ken Gross, Larry Hicker now. We're approved through 94% of brokerage custodial platforms. So meaning you can invest in Charles Schwab, Fidelity, TD, Edward Jones. We've achieved institutional quality, meaning you can invest through your financial advisors. We have multiple advisors who refer the clients to us. We have third-party independent financial audits. We now have a consistent track record of many years of investing and managing people's capital. These are where all of our offices are located. You'll see this office right here in this neighborhood. We also have an office down at the beach here in St. Augustine, as well as down in Daytona. One of our clients down there in Daytona is sitting right here, and New Jersey, and 3 offices in Pennsylvania. As I said earlier, we have over 300 investors, many of which are in multiple investments with us. This gives you an idea of where all of our properties are located. On the left is all the properties and loans. I know it's hard to read back there, but it's in the brochures as well. In the middle are just the properties we own, and on the right are just the loans we own, which will make better sense in a moment. So why invest in DLP Capital Advisors? This says there's only one investment. Put all your bones in real estate. So first of all, market knowledge. All of this that I've just explained to you is we have immense knowledge in the space of real estate as an operator. Our real estate brokerage gives us unique advantage, unique pulse to the market, ability to make real estate liquid. We have immense access to investment opportunities. Throughout these last decade, very few of our deals have actually come through the traditional efforts of it being a foreclosure that gets listed in the MLS and everybody competes for it. Most of our deals come to us directly. Our size and scale gives us unique buying power, consistency, and a lot of other benefits. Another unique thing about us is everything is transparent. So when you invest with us, you actually see every month you get a statement. Every month you have an online login where you can view your account all the time, like DLP Crowd. You'll be able to see the actual balance sheets, the actual income statements, the actual list of assets, the third-party financial audits, everything you could want to know about your investment at all times. We report out every single month to our investors. So now I'm going to talk about the actual opportunities. Two opportunities we're going to talk about, two strategies tonight. Investing can seem crazy, it can seem hard to know which way to look, what makes sense to invest. A lot of people, I'm sure, sending you guys mailings and calling on you, talking about different investment vehicles. I'm going to make a case for two strategies of what we do here tonight. So again, to the message, we focus on solutions for and from real estate. Here in DLP Capital Advisors, things have shifted a little bit. Is that we actually use real estate to solve problems, solve the need for reliable returns, solve the need for protection, for consistency, not worry about principal loss, and for reasonable, solid returns, right? That's been something that's been lacking in most investments for the past almost decade now. So the first strategy that we do, we're talking about two, is we make loans to real estate investors. That's what direct lending partner does. We make short-term loans, usually 6 to 12-month loans. I'm going to talk about a few of those highlights. At an average interest rate of about 13%. There's a big need for this short-term lending to real estate investors due to banking regulations, the fact that housing continues to get older. Even though there's less foreclosures than there once were, houses are getting older. The average house in America keeps getting older, meaning they keep getting beat up, they keep needing to be renovated. There's a very, very strong market for the need to renovate homes. And one of the other big benefits of this lending is the short duration of our loans, which we'll talk more about. Through this lending, we drive local neighborhoods, we drive economies, we provide jobs. It does a lot of great things in neighborhoods. If you've ever had a foreclosed home or a rundown home next door to you, you know how happy you were if somebody came along and cleaned that home up, right? That's what we focus on doing, providing capital to investors who do this. We have a great leadership team in our lending business, as you can see here. Won't talk about every one of them, but you can get a little feel for them there. We focus on lending to professional, experienced real estate investors. This says my sister never did get to hang on flipping houses. It's a witch underneath the house. So we focus on lending to professional, experienced investors. On average, our loans are 54% loan to value. Meaning if the home's worth $100,000, our loan is only $54,000, and it's in first position. On average, we're lending 73% loan to cost, meaning the borrower puts 27% of their own money into that property the day they close. So, anybody here know that there were a lot of foreclosures that happened in the downturn? Does that surprise anybody? No, right? There were over 10 million homes that foreclosed from 2008 down through today. Over 10 million, right? Does that surprise anybody? No, right? We all pretty much knew that, right? Out of those 10 million plus homes that foreclosed, how many do you think put 20% down? Yes, it's 1%? 3%? Less? Yeah, well under 1%. It was in the single thousands that put 20% down out of those 10 million plus that foreclosed. This is the most age-old focus in lending. Banking used to be simple. Some of you might remember, you go to the bank, you put 20% down, they give you a loan for the rest. That was about it. And because they knew if you put 20% down, you would pay. Things aren't really that much more complicated today. When you acquire 20% down, people pay. Guess how much most home buyers put down today when they buy homes? 3.5%. Actually, the average financing today, the number one source of financing today is 102% financing, because you're financing in all your closing costs. Crazy, right? We focus on 27%. So our borrowers are professional investors on average with a net worth close to $1 million, 700 credit score, and put 27% of their own money into the deal. And they pay us 13%. Banks lend at 4% to people with 3.5% down, lend more than the value of the property to people with credit scores as low as 520. See a little difference in the lending? Yeah, 520 is the credit score now requirement for FHA. We do all the same things banks do: title insurance, hazard insurance. We hold back. We give borrowers the money to renovate the property, but we don't give it to them at closing. We give it to them after they complete the work. We lend to strong borrowers, I described, good credit, good assets. Most of them are truly bankable investors. We use third-party appraisers, inspectors, valuation services, payment management, servicing agencies, a lot of institutional quality partners. So some examples here. So this is an example. I know it's hard to read in the back, but I'll just read a couple so you can kind of see back there. This is a home, that little tiny ranch. This is what a lot of our homes look like. A rundown kitchen, missing cabinets, old carpets, mold, rundown bathroom, walls half ripped out. And when they come in here and they put a new kitchen in, all new lighting, refinish hardwood floors, a new bathroom, clean up the outside, some landscaping. This person bought this home. Actually, I don't have the listing price here, but the loan amount was $66,000. The value was $115,000 is what we valued the property at. Our loan to value was 57%, and our loan to cost was 75%. The investor had over a 700 credit score, an average net worth of about $500,000, and he had already completed over 10 investments with us. We charged him 11.99% for a 6-month loan, and he actually sold the property for $145,000. We valued it at $115,000. Our loan was $66,000. Here's another one. This is actually here in Jacksonville. Actually, this borrower is the largest single-family purchaser in the Eastern Seaboard, at least. He buys over 700 homes a year, actually, in Jacksonville. So this is actually a new construction loan. So our loan was $121,000. The value was $190,000. Our loan was 64% of the loan to the value, 85% loan to the cost. He has a 768 credit score. He's done over 2,000 flips. He's actually done more than I have. And it was a 12-month loan. When we did this new construction loan, he bought the land cash. We didn't give him any money. He put out money to start the project, and we reimburse him after he completes work. And this guy has a net worth of over $12 million. And he's borrowing from us. 302 Buchanan Street, $222,000 loan. You can see this home is completely gutted. And then you can see big, beautiful, all redone house. So the loan amount was $222. The value is $360. That's 62% loan to value. 754 credit score. Net worth of about $500,000. 13% interest rate. And he sold it for $435. Our value was $360. So these are the types of loans we do. Average single-family homes in suburbia USA is where most of our lending is done. So how do you participate in this strategy is through 2 of our funds you'll see in those brochures. The DLP Lending Fund and the DLP Income and Growth Fund. Very, very similar funds. What these funds do is make loans to real estate investors. So in this fund, you have liquidity, consistent monthly returns. We make short-term loans at an average, again, 54% loan to value, 73% loan to cost. So here's how it works. I know this can be hard to read, but this is right in your brochures. So I'll read it out to you. This is pretty important. This is what it all comes down to. Everything I described to you. What does it mean to you? What do you guys actually get paid, right? So the targeted return is 11% annual net return to you. That's a 10% preferred return. That means you earn 10% before we get to earn any profits, with an overall target of 11%. We pay out the distributions monthly. We've never missed that 10% return on a single month. Actually, our worst month was over 12%. You can redeem your investment, which is 90 days notice. Actually, you can do it even faster if you actually need to, but the language in the fund documents, you can redeem in 90 days. So highly liquid in terms of a real estate investment or a private fund investment. Here's what the actual performance has been in the lending fund. We've averaged 14.94% net return to investors. Our worst month was 12.33%. Most months are 13-14% net returns to investors with liquidity, and all of those returns are paid monthly, and that's net to you. That's not when the expenses come out. That's the net you earn. Our income and growth fund is a little bit newer, same exact target. This fund has averaged 12.28, very consistent. Our best month was our best quarter was 13.02. Our worst was 12.28. Actually, our average is 12.6. Over the next year or two, these funds will be very similar, but we expect the income and growth will actually perform slightly better. So those options I just described are investing as a limited partner in these funds. So you're a limited partner. We're the general partner. We're responsible doing all the work. You're investing your money as a limited partner. The alternative option is you can invest as what we call a note holder. This is how we started 11 years ago. You lend money to us and we pay you a fixed return. So you're essentially lending money to the fund and you're going to earn 6.5% to 10% fixed return on your money. You can commit for 1 year, 3 years, or 5 years. And then based on how much you invest and how much you commit, the lowest is 6.5%, the highest is 10%. That's fixed, and that's net. Not $1 will come out of those returns. That's an absolute net return to you with all distributions paid out every month. Or you can choose to have the returns compound, meaning have the returns reinvest every month. And on the right, it'll show you what that return works out to be with monthly compounding benefit. Warren Buffett's my favorite saying. He was asked how he's so wealthy. He says, living in America for great opportunities, having great genes so I live for a long time, and the power of compounding returns. Consistent, steady returns month in and month out. Another big focus, the greatest lesson I ever heard, and it goes to the greatest saying is, what's the best way to make money? Not to lose money, right? When you have big losses, it's very hard to make that up. It takes many, many, many years. So avoiding principal losses and consistent, steady returns, we believe to be the most important characteristics of an investment. You can invest right through your IRA. We have many of our investors do this. These funds are perfect for that because then you're able to shelter your returns from tax. So we manage hundreds of IRA accounts through a third-party custodian. You can do it through Schwab, Fidelity, or through a self-directed IRA custodian. So why would you go into a fixed note? Because the returns are fixed. That means we have to pay you regardless of the performance of the fund. We actually sign a contract with you guaranteeing you that fixed return. Again, we've never missed a fixed return in a single month. And it's the lowest risk of any of our investments. None of our investments have lost money. None of our investments have ever had a month of missing their return. But this is the lowest risk of all of them, the fixed returns. All right, so the second and last strategy I'm going to talk about is multifamily investing. So this is the other side of our company. We buy apartment communities. Okay? So we buy apartment communities mainly throughout Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. Mainly 50 to 300 unit, meaning apartment, communities. We leverage our in-house property management. We leverage our disciplined buying, focusing on buying deals where you make money on the purchase. We use long-term non-recourse loans. And we really focus on buying distressed properties where we come in and improve them. And we mitigate risk in a number of ways, some of which I just talked about, some of which I'm going to continue to talk about. These are some of the leaders here in our property management company. We average a 98% physical occupancy, over 94% effective occupancy. We perform really, really well, which is, of course, critical when you own apartments. We're endorsed by some really big personalities. Locally, Rich Jones, a lot of you know, in Pennsylvania, which many of you came from Pennsylvania. Bobby Gunther Walsh is the Rich Jones of Pennsylvania. Glenn Beck, Sean Hannity, some big nationwide personalities. So often when you hear these kind of returns, you can think that it's too good to be true. I'm going to tell you that this is true. We can have you talk to many of our investors. The video actually, I realize, isn't playing here, but we have some video clips to play. These are some of our great investors. You have 10 of them here in the room tonight. And we'll gladly put you in touch with many of our happy investors who can tell you about their experience. This is one of our most recent apartment communities we bought. This is in Brunswick, Georgia, 128 apartments. 40 of the apartments were down, meaning they were unrentable. They needed renovation. Those are the types of deals we often buy. It has laundry. This kind of gives you a map of all the properties. Beautiful property. We're going to bring all those properties, renovate all those properties, get them leased, improve the value. So how you invest in this strategy is through our newest fund, the DLP Equity Fund II. So why would you be interested in this fund versus the other ones I talked about? Well, this fund has the highest overall return target of 17% annual net return to investors. It also protects you or helps you defer that income from income taxes through depreciation. And it'll provide you with the largest overall wealth building returns, a longer term duration investment of 8 to 10 years. What do we buy? So again, we buy 50 to 200 unit apartment communities. If anybody here invests on real estate, this will make sense to you. If not, it might not make that much sense. We focus on buying properties with at least a 9% cap rate within a year of purchase. What that means is if we bought the property for all cash, we would generate a 9% return just from the rental income. not including appreciation, not including any increase in value, just from rental cash flow. And at least a cash-on-cash return factoring in leverage, meaning a loan, of at least 12%. So when we take a loan out on the money we invest, we generate at least a 12% return every year just from rental income. Again, not including the fact that values are going up, or we are improving the value of the property, or paying down the mortgage, just cash flow earned every month. So how does this process work? How do we do this? We go out there and evaluate hundreds of deals every month. We funnel them through a very, very detailed due diligence process. We do full financial underwriting of 40 to 50 deals. We go out and visit 20, 30 properties every month. We put offers out on 15 to 20 properties every month, and we buy about 1 or 2 every single month. It takes us hundreds of deals to get to the deals that meet our standards that we're willing to buy them, and they can get the kind of returns that we generate for our investors. We focus on distress. So this sign here says must sell, lost job, can't pay mortgage, wife left, took dog, house is a gem except for asbestos. Those are the type of distressed opportunities we like to buy. Like the property I mentioned a moment ago that had 40 apartments that hadn't been rented in 10 years. So we come in, we improve the properties. They often look like this. Ken in the back can tell you this is a property he oversaw in Jacksonville. Dated kitchens and bathrooms, a lot of deferred maintenance, and some issues with the joists, some mold issues. We came in and turned them into this. New kitchens, hard surface flooring, new lighting, increase the rents $100, $150, $200 a month, and attract better quality tenants who stay. It says here, we can't read it, 2 + 2 = 5. It says, I prefer to think of it as added value. That's really what we focus on doing, is buying a property for $2 million, putting $500,000 in repairs, and then it'd be worth $3 million or $3.5 million. Creating value through management and through capital improvements. So why invest in multifamily? Whether you do it with me or not, why should you be interested in this space? Well, if you don't know this, at the peak of the market in 2007, 69% of Americans were homeowners. Now we're down to 61%. That number will continue to decline. The average, guess what the average age of somebody now gets married? Nobody's heard this before, say it. 32? Any other guesses? 37.
Oh, wow.
Average first-time home buyer now is between 37 and 38 years old. People are starting life later and staying renters longer. In addition, it's probably not a surprise to tell you that we're in a more transient society, right? People don't stay at their jobs as long. They want more flexibility that rentership provides. So we're going to continue to see a decline in homeownership. And then many of the young so-called millennials who come to the age of being homebuyers today, they became adults in the biggest real estate crash in maybe history. So guess what? The dream of homeownership isn't the same for them as it might have been for you. So the demand for renters continues to go. There's 10 million more renters today than 6 years ago in America. So why do we invest in types of properties we buy, which are called B and C class apartments, which are basically non-luxury apartments? If you drive around Jacksonville, there are thousands and thousands of brand new apartment communities being built. They're all luxury with tennis courts and gyms and fitness centers and all nice amenities, elevators and so forth. That's not the type of property we buy. We buy apartments that were built in the 60s and 70s and 80s that don't have all of those amenities, that are affordable. The average new one-bedroom in Jacksonville is $1,800 a month. Our average one-bedroom is $800 a month. And there's very little in between. So guess what? Incomes haven't gone up like rent has. Rent's gone up 40–50% since 2006 in most markets. Incomes haven't gone up 40–50%. So there's a big need for affordable housing that's lacking in most markets. That's a void we fill. And what we think is most important out of this strategy is, who thinks that there'll be a market correction again in the future? Prices, home values will go down, stock market's going to go down, right? It's going to happen, right? Everything goes in cycles. So when we go back into another recession, who knows? Maybe that's in a year, 3 years. We could talk a lot about that, but it's going to happen, right? So when that happens, what do you think happens to all the people living in $1,800, $2,000 a month, $2,100 a month apartments? Where do they go? They have to go somewhere more affordable, right? So they're gonna have to go to these places that are $800, $900, $1,000. I know the general media likes to tell you that people just go back and live with mom and dad, but most Americans don't go live back with mom and dad when they go in recession, right? They need to live somewhere. So they're going to need an affordable place to live, which is what we focus on. So we believe occupancy will go up and will maintain very strong rents even in a recession when the next recession comes. So this type of asset also generates better cash flow. There's a huge supply and demand. So in 2012 was the last time there was a non-Class A luxury apartment community built in America. That means in the last 5 years, nothing has been built in the entire United States that's not Class A. What that means is there's no new product. So there's a big increase in number of renters, yet there's no new product that's affordable. Everything is the luxury products, all you can afford to build in today's market. So there's no new supply and there's lots of demand. Here's some of our recent properties we bought in the equity fund. This is the first property we bought, Titusville, Florida, Space Coast, about an hour and a half, 2 hours south of us here. 96 unit apartment community, has a pool, 1 bedrooms and 2 bedroom units, examples of what the units look like. This is the second property we bought a few weeks ago. This is in Warner Robins, Georgia. This is 196 apartments. It's 3 different communities these two are right next door to each other. This one's about 1.5 miles apart. Big population growth in this market. They went from 1 high school to 5 in the past 7 or 8 years. This is our newest acquisition that we just put under contract 2 days ago. Ken Gross in the back of the room drove out there yesterday. He drove out to Conway, South Carolina, which is Myrtle Beach, right next door to Myrtle Beach. It's our first property in Myrtle Beach. This is a 64 unit apartment building, which we actually own 3 64 unit apartment communities, coincidentally. So the 2-story community, as you can see, we bought this through an auction. We got an amazing deal on this, at least we believe we did. Bought this for $2.3 million. I say we're buying it for $2.3 million. We're closing in a little over 3 weeks. 64 apartments built in 1975. This is our next acquisition. This is in Wilson, North Carolina. This is 100 apartments. This is near Greensboro, North Carolina, where we own another community. I think it's about a little over an hour from Raleigh. I think an hour, 15 minutes from Raleigh. So 100 single-story apartments. It's actually performing pretty well now. Good cash flow. But we're going to raise the rents and improve the performance. But it's actually a pretty well-performing community right now. 100 apartments built in 1971. Over 16 acres of land. 1, 2, 3, and 4 bedroom apartments, which is nice. This is a property we own in Greensboro, North Carolina, which is 128 apartments. This is here in Jacksonville, which is 64 apartments. This is in Daytona Beach, 56 apartments. This is in Jessup, Georgia, about an hour and a half north of here, 64 apartments. So how do you invest in this strategy? How do you get paid? So this is an 8 to 10 year fund, so longer term horizon, although you can get out earlier with 120-day notice if you need to. The goal of this fund is to pay you 8 to 9% returns, paid out quarterly, so basically give you 2% return on your money every quarter, 8 to 9% a year, just from the rental cash flow. As a preferred return of 7%, which means you earn 7 before we earn anything, but the goal is to pay you 8 to 9 from rental cash flow while we're paying down the principal, while we're improving the assets. So the overall return target over 8 to 10 years is 17% annual net return to investors over 18 years. So basically the goal is to give you 8-9% every year. And over the last 2 years, the fund returned back to you 2 times your investment. You'll be able to defer taxes through most of the income, the cash flow you earn throughout the duration of this fund through depreciation. So this fund's been open for 4 months. We've raised about $10 million in commitments. We've purchased over $11 million in properties so far. We have $7 million of properties under contract, which are the properties I just showed you. Now you're thinking, wow, right? So I'm going to wrap up here, and before we're going to do a little raffle. I believe Larry's going to get ready for us to give away a gift card. But before we do that, I want to do what I believe to be the best part of the presentation. I know I was a little long-winded here, but I want to open it up to questions that you might have, as I covered a lot of ground here. So I'll just raise your hand, and we'll come around and answer your questions. Ken, can you take the mic and walk around them? Okay. All right. Who's gonna be the brave soldier to start us off? All right, Doug. There's 2 actually back there. Doug's in the purple.
So thank you, Don. Having dabbled a little bit in real estate as an active investor, as opposed to a passive investor here, one of the things that interests me, and I'd like to hear a little bit more about, is the synergies or the efficiencies that you have seen based on the companies that you reflect or interface with. So how do you optimize that, and how does that impact your ability to be more productive?
Great question. So his question was, how do all the companies we have, DLP Realty, property management, builders, all these in-house companies, how do they attribute to our efficiency? And I'll start off by saying, I would not be a property manager or a construction company if I didn't have to. They're not sexy businesses. Ken's been in property management for 30 years, and he might tell you differently, but managing apartments is not a lot of fun. I'm going to tell you, there's not a lot of exciting, enjoyable parts to it. It's a necessity to generate the kind of returns we generate. Managing 40, 50, 60, 70 contractors. Anybody ever had a hard time getting a contractor to show up to your house on time or do a project? Managing contractors every day. We manage over $25 million in annual construction. Doing that every day, it's not a lot of fun. But we can't deliver these kind of returns and gain this kind of efficiency if we didn't do this in-house. So we do it out of a necessity to drive returns. If I hired a third-party management company, I pay twice as much, and I get average results, which are results. We generate 5, 6, 7% higher effective occupancy than what's industry normal. And that may not sound like a lot, but that about doubles your cash flow. That magic is in those few percentages. Same thing goes with construction. Trying to hire third-party contractors. Imagine here in Florida after Matthews how hard it was finding contractors, and we had any damage to their houses, right? Having that in-house resource and knowledge base is critical. You can save on one project, a $500,000 roofing job on a big community. You can swing that bid at $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 with the right knowledge and resources in-house. So it's an absolute necessity for us. I prefer just to manage the capital and hire outside vendors and let them deal with the day-to-day headaches and the bidding and the liability and the workers' comp and auto insurance and all the things that it takes in running the tactical infrastructure on the ground, but it's required to get these kind of returns. And it's one of the big things that separates. Most guys who do what I do don't do this. Most of them hire third-party managers, and they hire third-party contractors. It's a lot easier. And they focus on the money, not the asset. We've found it to be really critical to do both. Great question, Doug.
Good evening. I'm Will Landy. I'm actually with Remax Unlimited, so I'm in the real estate field we were discussing earlier. One thing that struck me with when you were talking about the locations, small communities. Some of the places I used to live in, Charleston, Columbia, so I know some of these South Carolina locations. What I was curious about as someone who does real estate investment, obviously as well as sells, and does some of the rehab properties nowhere near at the level of what your company can do. One thing that always kept striking me was, okay, great projects here, minimal risk. You're not going to lose just because of certain price points, but maybe you're making $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 on each project. You're doing it at a much higher level. But then I see some of the things that happen in Southern California, LA, San Diego, South Beach, or even where I'm from in ATL or some of these other, let alone New York. Yeah. And a nothing project is multiple millions of returns. I'm curious, is that kind of within the bailiwick of what you can do? Is it something you avoid because the risk is much higher, obviously, and then the return can be much higher, but there's less assurance? I'm curious about the big major, top 10, 20 metro markets versus some of these smaller towns. So I thought that was interesting that what you showed in terms of your next number of projects are in some smaller towns. So I'm kind of curious about that.
Great question. So yes, we don't focus on large metros. We have very few assets in any major metro. I'd say probably Orlando and Jacksonville are the biggest metros we have investments in. We're not in Miami, we're not in New York, we're not in Atlanta itself, for a few reasons. And from the very first days I got into business, when 8, 9 years ago I sold 400 or 500 homes in a year as a real estate team, right? And that's a lot. If you don't know, that's top 20 in the U.S., 25 in the U.S., a million real estate agents. But I look at the list that the Wall Street Journal puts out every year. I say, well, these guys in Southern California or D.C. or New York who sold 30 houses and probably made more money than I did, right? They had more volume than I did. And as a real estate broker, I realized, yeah, but it's so much more is based on one sale and so much less scale. and consistency you're able to generate. There's so much more fluctuation. The same thing goes with investing. In our space as a private lender, most of the big private lenders in the country who do what we do are based out of Southern California. I'd say 4 out of the 5 biggest are based out of Southern California. And they do lots of $3 million ground up construction projects in San Diego, 5 million, 8 million. It's really nice as a lender to make a $4 million loan versus to make a bunch of $66,000 loans, right? It's less work to underwrite a $4 million loan than it is a $66,000 loan, believe me. But if something goes wrong with that one loan or that one borrower, it'll affect us dramatically when so much money is in one single asset. So we really focus on smaller assets spread across geographically and in markets that are pretty consistent, that don't have as big of fluctuations as some of the big metros, especially on the West Coast. And then lastly, we focus on the asset classes in the areas we understand. We understand these secondary markets. And lastly, the last big thing that really affects us is when you go into Atlanta. If I went to buy an apartment community, and I have a good friend who's who's probably the biggest property manager and multifamily owner in Atlanta. It's about 21,000 apartments in Atlanta. When you go to Atlanta, I'm going to buy properties where I'm going to struggle to be able to generate a 7 or 8% cash-on-cash return, really, at the end of the day. When we want to be at 14, 15, 16, because the properties are more expensive, it's a bigger market, it attracts Blackstone and Invitation Homes and all these giant, huge companies with billions of dollars. So it's a lot easier for them to deploy $50 million in one market or one property or a few properties than to go and learn all these little markets and have 4 million here, and 3 million here, a property here, and a loan here. So we find that there's a lot less efficiency in those markets. It gives us a big advantage as an operator to come into these markets with less competition, less risk as well. And it's worked really, really well for us. But great question. Yeah, we have no plans to go into any of these major markets or any of these higher dollar markets. Great question. Any questions? I just realized nobody has desserts yet. So why don't we do, did somebody do already? Did everybody get their desserts already? Okay, I guess I wasn't paying attention to you guys. All right, good. Any other questions we have here? All right, well then I'm gonna, is Larry around there with the raffle? So after this here, Larry's going to do a quick raffle for a $100 gift card. But after that, I'll be around, Larry will be around to answer questions. But really the next most important step here is, there's no paperwork. None of us brought any paperwork to sign tonight. We're not here to take in any investments tonight. Just here to give you an opportunity to learn and hear more. And then Larry will follow up with you tomorrow. Well, tomorrow's Sunday, so he won't tomorrow. We'll follow up with you early in the week. And next time, really sit down one-on-one and explain this in context to your goals, your situation, because it's a lot different looking at your specific situation or what could make the best sense or how all this plays into your goals and your picture. So myself and Larry would love to sit down with you one-on-one and to discuss more what we offer and how it could benefit you personally. So with that said, Larry, you have the raffle? All right, here he comes. I only have Will, who asked a good question there, pull the raffle back there.
Will, you pull the raffle for me? Raffle there?
All right, I'm going to close my eyes.
I think you broke his in braille.
If I write it, we'll be able to read it anyway.
Yeah.
All right. We have Susan.
There we go.
Susan, congratulations.
So Susan, funny how I found out tonight. We bought a property management company in Daytona Beach called Arthur College Realty 2 years ago. And that's how I got in touch with Susan. Arthur College has been managing your properties for many years, and now I've been managing your properties for the last couple of years. We just met tonight for the first time. Yes, since I was in 8th grade, exactly. So, all right, everybody, thank you. I'll be walking around as with Larry to answer questions, but more importantly, don't talk to me, talk to our investors who are here in the room. Can our investors just raise your hand one last time? Victor, Bud, back there. So a lot of them in the room. So thank you again, everybody. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
We've been live streaming this as well on Facebook and YouTube and so forth.